If you went back and told me 2 years ago that I would ace all 11 of my subjects in my final exams, I wouldn't have believed you. Because honestly, I sucked so much when it came to exams that you wouldn't even believe how much of a struggle it was for me. Firstly, I didn't even know how to study effectively. Like, how was I actually meant to convert like this notebook into knowledge? Was I meant to memorize everything? Was memorization even enough? I get stressed because I didn't realize if I was studying correctly or not. But regardless, I put in hours upon hours just to get a mid grade. And that would genuinely just be the worst feeling, because it felt like no matter how hard I tried, I could never reach that elusive 100%. But after so many grades that made me feel disheartened, after meetings with teachers, videos and books all read about how to study and how to get good at exams, I was finally able to make acing exams easy, repeatable, and the progress from my mocks to the actual things shows that this really does work. And if you share any sort of similarity with my story, and you're tired of being confused, frustrated, and struggling, just copy me to make exams something that you can finally look forward to and ace. Chapter 1. How to actually get good at a subject. When revising or studying for an exam, you're trying to just, in essence, get better at that subject, right? And I knew for me, personally, apart from maths, I sucked at most subjects. I'm bad at history, I'm bad at French, I'm bad at biology, I'm bad at physics. These are all things that I knew. And you probably have your own certain subjects that you have some kind of beef with. Now, one subject you think you're pretty bad at, and if you're being honest, you probably have an exam for that very subject quite soon. That's why you clicked on this video. But actually, you're doing better than you realize, because the first step in solving a problem is admitting there is a problem to be solved, as Pete Siege said. So knowing and admitting that you suck at a subject lets you improve, so that's good. But that wasn't enough for me, because I knew I sucked at all of those subjects, but I actually didn't know how to get better at that subject. And so this is what you need to do, so listen closely. I actually started to break down each of these subjects into smaller parts, and then something magic happens. Maths isn't just a singular thing. You can't be bad at maths, because maths is algebra, problem solving, arithmetic, proof, probability, vectors, and all of the topics within maths. That's what comes together to make the subject of maths. And if you highlight out of these topics which ones you struggle at, you're not bad at maths anymore. You're bad at these certain topics. You might be bad at vectors and proofs. And you could even highlight within each of these subtopics in red or green to make it obvious which areas you need to work on. And there's a new study tip that you can add to your inventory, which is called the traffic light system. The reason that this is so powerful is that it removes that sense of lostness and confusedness you feel when you say you're bad at maths, because that just kind of closes that statement and it makes it so that you don't know what you can do to make it better. Imagine this, if I told you to just get jacked, that's quite vague and confusing, and you might not even know what you actually need to do. But if I told you instead to go to the gym to work on your chest, your back, your lateral delts, your triceps, your quads, your arms, and I gave you a training plan and a meal plan to follow, that's much easier, and suddenly you're going to get to the same objective of being jacked. But because I gave you instructions and a plan, us as humans, we're good at following those kind of things, and so it's going to be easier for you. So we can do the same things for your exams. Exams are testing your knowledge around the subject, right? So instead of focusing on getting better at maths, knowing what areas to focus on, study on, and suddenly you know what you have to do to get good at that subject.
je comprends.
As Matthew Said said, marginal gains is not making small changes and hoping they fly. Rather, it is about breaking down a big problem into small parts in order to rigorously establish what works and what doesn't. And the second thing that you need to copy to ace your exams is about dealing with exam stress. Ego in the anime Blue Lock said, stress reveals a player's true capabilities by pushing them beyond their comfort zone. While players may perform perfectly in a controlled environment of training where there is minimal pressure, the chaotic and high stakes nature of a real match causes mistakes to happen. And this is exactly the same as with exams. Because even if during revision, or I thought that I knew something perfectly, performing in an exam condition, performing actually inside the exam venue with all of the external factors such as stress is an entirely different story. There are two types of stress when it comes to exams. The first one is actually the stress of the exam itself, including like the time pressures, etc. And the second type of stress is the stress about not performing well. For those of you who saw, I performed on the stage for the first time ever at a piano competition, and you can watch how I did here. And spoiler alert, it didn't go that good because my nerves were crazy, I messed up, and it felt like, I can't describe it, it was like the worst feeling ever. And I asked my teacher how you overcome that feeling of like stage performance anxiety, right? And she said you get used to this by performing 100 times in front of a crowd. And so to get used to the timed pressuring state of exams, you can get used to this by doing past papers and practice problems. And you hear this a lot, but there is a correct way to do past papers. You have to do them under time conditions because they're only effective when you emulate them under exam pressure. Obviously there's like the active recall and those benefits, but when you actually time yourself, you're also training yourself to perform under pressure. Emulate all of this until it becomes second nature. Set a time limit or set a certain amount of questions that you're going to do in X amount of time, and then don't have your answers out in front of you, and then just do all of those questions, and afterwards you can check how much you got right. Because remember, we're trying to emulate exactly what happens within an exam. Rereading your notes before an exam actually doesn't help, because in the exam you're not going to have the note.
What?
So rereading off of your notes isn't actually preparing you for what's going to be happening in the exam, which is testing you without any form of like notes or help, right? And so copying this will make you so much better, because the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle. And this thing that you need to copy might be the most crucial yet, because I'm literally going to tell you how you can boost your marks in any exam. You're not unique. And I don't mean this in an insulting way, I mean that in a good way. There are topics that you'll get wrong often that other students will also get wrong often, because that's just the nature of certain topics. For each subject, for each exam, there are going to be common mistakes that you make. And so next time in your lesson, ask your teacher, what are some common mistakes that students or people make in this topic? You can even find some textbooks that tell you these like common mistakes and stuff to watch out for. Or if you have none of the above, you can actually do what I did, which is when I did my past papers, I'd make a note of every single mistake I'd make within that whole subject. So that way I had a personalized kind of like menu kind of thing for me that told me like what topics I was strong at, but more importantly, what topics were my weaknesses. And so I was able to train up my weaknesses. You can even ask AI, what are some common misconceptions or mistakes that students make on the X topic? And it actually gives you surprisingly good answers. But the best way really is to ask other students like you what common mistakes they made and what advice they have for you. And a really good way to do this is to check out my program, the Student Accelerator. You're surrounded by like-minded, ambitious students that might be older than you, that might have already done the same exam as you, and you'll also get access to me, experts, and all the protocols, workshops, and guides that I've made about how to become the best student you can be. And so if you want to find out like all the mistakes I've made and all these other students have made and things that you can do to fix them, as well as premium resources, make sure to check out the Student Accelerator, first link in the description. And now you know that if you copy these steps, you know you're going to be able to ace all of your exams, no matter what. If you like this video, make sure to like it. But as always, I'll see you in the next one. I'd get stressed I'd get stressed. But after so many grades that made me so. Imagine this. Imagine this. For those of you, you're gonna be able to examine your. Make sure you.